huge thanks to OK Jersey. They're your go-to for the 2026 World Cup and an incredible retro archive. They've got decades of iconic league classics, from legendary 90s designs to the rarest club heritage kits. Whether it's a high-performance player version or a timeless vintage look, prices start at just £15, 4.5 Trustpilot rating and fast shipping. Use code Chris for 8% off and grab your piece of football history now.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Tottenham Hotspur are still a Premier League club. I'm still reeling from that final day. But we are still in the Premier League, which is great. I've got three very special guests with me this evening. Chris does send his apologies. He might pop in later, but let's just see how that one goes. Keep Learn or Sell we're doing tonight. I've got three very special guests with me tonight. But as always, we are on YouTube, X and Facebook. So please do get involved and let us know how you're feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and get involved in the chat as well. Melvin is back with us from Malta. How are you, Melvin?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Looking forward to speak about, Tottenham, get my free therapy session, I call it. But looking forward to see what you guys say about the transfers.
Absolutely. And Josh is back with us. It's been a while, Josh.
I know. It's good to be back. Good to see you chaps as well. And hello to everyone in the comments. It's like you. it's been a bit of a sort of weird period. We are still a Premier League club. Now just eagerly awaiting what we do in the transfer window, and hopefully we're not going to end up in another relegation fight next season or ever again.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's hope we're never there again. Absolutely. And Luke's back with us. Luke's been with us for a couple of those horrendous games towards the end of the season. I remember sharing the screen with you, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, very relieved that the conversation is going to go a certain way tonight, because it could just be sell everyone if it had gone a different way at the end of the season, couldn't it? So fortunately, we'll be having a slightly nicer conversation. And I think probably one of the most important ones in recent history, because of where we need to sort of move on from. So what they do in the transfer window is going to be absolutely crucial for what the club will be next year, which is always the case, but I think exacerbated by what we just saw over the last 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've certainly been through it as fans as well, haven't we? So it's quite nice to relax and enjoy or hopefully try and enjoy the World Cup and the summer. Breathe a sigh of relief. It really was that on the last game of the season. Josh, just before we get into it, you haven't been on the podcast for a little while. Talk us through how you saw those final 4 or 5 games went with Tottenham. Obviously, we chat almost every day in our group, but be good to get your feelings on those last few games and how you felt on the final day.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was relief more than anything on the final day. But I think the big telling point is actually De Zerbi came in, and after the sort of merry-go-round that we'd had, and it had been a car crash of a season up until the point De Zerbi came in, I think many of us probably either had conceded the fact that we were going down or still couldn't believe it. It was one of those two sort of extremes. And they just felt a massive shift when De Zerbi came in. The players, you could hear the things that they've been saying about De Zerbi. I had a chat with Vicario's mum and dad outside Stamford Bridge, and they said that he's made a massive difference. The players are right behind him. And I think certainly the last few home games, of course, there were cup finals. Of course, we had to get points in those games. For starters, to not lose a game at home under De Zerbi is a positive that we can take into next season. But also, there was a real sense of togetherness. De Zerbi really understood how the fans were feeling, how all of us were feeling. I think he set the tone right from the start. And even in the games where we didn't pick up, points, I think Sunderland's neither here nor there. He came in, he hadn't had enough time at all to really get into the players. But, games like Brighton, for example, where he should have won the game and didn't win, there was a massive shift in the level of performance. And arguably the only game where there were 2 games where the performances weren't as good, which were Leeds and Chelsea, but we did enough in those other games, and that's all we really needed, right? It was to do enough to stay in the division. So I love the way that he has been speaking about the club. I love the comment he made when he said, it's about 7 o'clock now and we get to work at 8-9 p.m. planning for next season. Apparently he's been living at the training ground with his coaching staff in those facilities. He's really immersed himself, and I think we can go into next season knowing that, provided we have a good transfer window, and that's the massive if with Spurs, and you'd like to think the board isn't going to stand for the last 2 seasons. I don't think they have a choice now. We've got a great opportunity, because it feels like for the first time in a long time, the fans, and the players and the manager at least are closer together than we had been. Certainly, we had none of that under Tudor and Thomas Frank. So, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid end to the season. We did enough. I thought we'd need 3 wins out of those games under De Zerbi. We got those wins, and that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a relief, though, Josh. I keep saying it, but it was a relief on that final day, and just getting over the line. And I've got friends that are West Ham fans, and I'll be honest, I haven't taken the mickey out of them at all, because I don't feel it was finishing 17th is not something to be celebrated, is it? But we're not here to talk about that today. What we are here to talk about is the Tottenham Hotspur squad for next season: keep, loan, or sell. So I'm going to come round to each guest and ask them whether they want to keep, loan, or sell members of the Tottenham Hotspur squad. And at the end, we'll go through players that we've been linked to and hopefully signed as well, and see what the guys think of that. Obviously, get involved in the chat. Let us know as it goes along what you'd like to see with certain players who I'm going to read out. So the first player on the list, Melvin, will come to you first, is Guillermo Vicario. Keep, loan, or sell?
For me, I'm in the mindset of I think De Zerbi will improve players. I think if you sell now, you're not going to recoup as much money as we think. If we keep him for a year and he's coached and he has a decent season, for me, I don't see why we should sell him. I think we should keep him. I would play Kinski as the number 1, though. I would caveat that by saying he will play cup games here and there, but I would keep him. And because I think if we sell him now, what we're going to recoup? 10 million, 12 million, 15 million? It's not enough. I think I'd rather keep him and sell him when he's in decent form and has a decent season. I think 15 million doesn't do anything. It doesn't even buy you a decent replacement. So for me, I would keep him. Play Kinski as the number 1, or rotate him. I think De Zerbi did something similar at Brighton.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Josh?
Sell. Immediately sell. The money, for me, is not important at all with this. We've got to get rid of the players that aren't performing. And De Zerbi, the way that he likes to play, we need a goalkeeper who can use their feet. Kinski stepped up big time at the end of the season. And I do genuinely believe that if we had Vicario playing those games, we would have gone down. So weak from set pieces, so poor with the ball at his feet. Decent shot stopper, but we need something consistent. And I think that there are lots of different things that we could do in that position. Personally, what I would like to see is maybe we get a more experienced goalkeeper in, and if there's someone that we can get in that can sort of help Kinski being the number 1, and someone that can develop him and play in those cup games, I think that experience will be important. And then maybe next season we look to buy another goalkeeper, or in January if Kinski's not quite up to standard. But I think he deserves a chance at number 1. Vicario has been nothing but a hindrance this season.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Josh. Luke, what are your feelings on Vicario?
Yeah, I can't see him wanting to be a number 2 when he wants to try and get into the Italy team. So I think he will probably want to go as well. I think that we've got to start actually looking at it's either its mentality or it's the kind of football IQ level, or maybe it's something else of some of the players that we've bought in recent times. And to be honest with you, I take you back to the Europa League final and that mistake he made that Van der Ven saved, off the line. That's the kind of thing in those crunch moments that if players let you down, then perhaps you need to consider whether or not they're going to be at the right level, they've got the right sort of competitive mindset. And I just think that he is a bag of nerves sometimes, and at the wrong moments as well. I also think across last season, when Frank was still in charge, week after week after week, he got pressed, he just booted the ball straight out of play. He almost never found anyone. His pass success rate was so poor. And you think he's got all week to work on that. He's a footballer. He doesn't just work with his hands because he's a goalkeeper. And he made zero improvement in that area over quite a long period of time in quite a number of games. I can't see that De Zerbi would be able to get out of him what he likes with his goalkeepers, which is to invite pressure. He wants his goalkeepers to put their studs on the ball and to invite pressure to create extra space. I can't see Vicario picking up that kind of skill quickly enough when he had months to do it this last season gone and didn't improve at all. So, yeah, afraid, I feel like we're saying sell, but, thanks for your service and for the trophy, but definitely sell, I think, for me.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there. I kind of echo what you've said there. I think it's probably time for Vic to go. I mean, he's certainly had some moments. He saved us in certain games, but I do think the style of football De Zerbi wants to play, again, I don't think he's as suited as Kinski and other goalkeepers. So for me, it would be sell as well. Okay, we come on to first outfield player, Radu Dragushin. Melvin.
Sell. It's just I don't think he's necessarily a bad defender, but I don't think he's a very good defender either. I think his agent needs to be quiet, and I think his agent has spoken more times than he's made appearances this season, Dragushin. So for me, it's a player you can recoup, I think, a decent amount of money, and he's Romanian international, decent player for Serie A, Germany. We can easily sell him. I don't think he's a De Zerbi type of player, and we have better currently in the squad. We have better players coming as well, so very, very easy sell.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's a sell from Dragushin for me. Exactly what you said there, Melvin. I think he's fourth, fifth choice at the moment, and with the players we've been linked with, which we'll come on to later, possibly signing, I think he's going to be even further down that pecking order. Josh.
Yeah, sell for me. Again, I don't think he's a bad footballer. I think that in the right league, in Serie A, he's perfect. The Premier League is a different beast, and you need to be quicker on the ball. You need to be confident with both feet. You need to have the ability to, track your man, and, in a back against the wall situation where you're trying to defend a lead, I think he's perfectly adequate, but, he's not got a future at the club. I think that's clear for all to see. So definitely sell.
Thanks, Josh. Luke, your thoughts on Dragushin? Because I was just thinking there, when you see him playing, I think it must have been the Euros. He was absolutely brilliant in the Euros, and yet we've not really seen that at Spurs.
Yeah, I think one of his skills actually is some of his better games for Tottenham came in these kind of siege mentality games when we were backs against the wall, everyone defending, when he didn't have to turn and run really, and that was sort of his skill. He was good at sort of sitting in the box, heading balls away, and not having to do a lot of movement. But that's not how De Zerbi wants to play. So yeah, he's not managed to get many games for us because of that ACL, but which is a shame. But yeah, definitely sell.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement then. Radu Dragushin should be sold. I think that's a full house. Okay, next on the list, Kevin Danso. Personally, for me, I'll go first on this one. I think we need to keep Big Kev. I think he's had some really good games. Obviously, people will point at that era. Was it Brighton? But, for me, I think he's been pretty solid overall. Melvin, what are your thoughts on Danso?
Yeah, keep. Massive fan of his. I think he played a big role in us staying up. I think coming in for Romero, yeah, like you said, I know he made that minor mistake, but his aerial presence is immense, and you notice it quite contrast to Romero, who's not as tall as him, not as good as in the air, and just Kevin doesn't get bullied physically and fast. Great player, great. I think good enough to start and win you games, and good enough to have on the bench as well.
Absolutely. Josh?
Keep 100%, minus that mistake against Brighton. I think he is comfortably one of the top 3 players under De Zerbi so far. He's played a huge role in keeping us in the Premier League. Against Everton, he was absolutely unbelievable. And for me, do I see him as being our starting centre-back? Probably not, for where we want to be. But is he the type of player that you want in your squad? And is he great squad depth? And if we do get injuries like we've had every single season, he is one of the few that is super reliable, decent amount of pace, brilliant in the air, reads the game well. So, yeah, I think Danso's been a real positive in the back end of the season. Absolutely keep.
Absolutely. Luke?
100% keep. I was just in awe of him in that last game in particular. He was clearly hurting. He'd had taken a few knocks off people and his legs were clearly sore and he was struggling, but he just carried on. And he's going to the World Cup as well, unlike some other people who tend to sort of drop off when they've got to play for their national team. But he didn't. He put in 110% in that Everton game. Funnily enough, in the Brighton game, can you remember who it was that actually physically shoved him off the ball and got the assist for the equaliser?
Yeah.
I know we're going to touch on it later, but it was Van Hecker.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
We should have known that.
That high up the pitch, yeah. So between the two of them, he sort of shoved him off the ball. But yeah, I love him. I think he's also, and this doesn't almost get said about players, but he's also a really good bloke. I think he got the Community Champion Award from the Supporters Trust because of the work he was doing with charities and things. He's a really, really good bloke. So, having those kind of people in a dressing room is always positive. So yeah, 100% keep.
I think that's a full house for Mr. Danso then, by the sound of it. I think we're all in favour of keeping Kevin Danso. Let's come on to the next player, and one that there's been a lot of chatter about, Palhinha. Personally, for me, I think it's a keep. I thought he was sensational over the last few games, almost single-handedly kept us in the Premier League, really. So, Melvin, thoughts on Palhinha?
Tricky one, because I think our midfield needs, different type of players, and we have similar players to his profile. But I think there's a deal to be done with Bayern. I think the fee that's there might be a bit too expensive. If they can do it a bit cheaper, I'd be 100% all in, keep and buy, because we need good players. We need players with his attributes. I think he was crucial. Obviously scored the goal, but I think throughout the season, I think he's been key moments where he's popped up with goals. And I think under De Zerbi, we have to look at some players with a different kind of lens, because in the last, since De Zerbi's been here, I think players have gotten, a new lease of life and can be quite useful. And I think he's one of those players that we should keep for that reason.
Josh?
Keep, absolutely crucial this season. So many big goals, big moments. Look, he's not the best footballer in the world, don't get me wrong, and he's certainly someone that I don't see, both with his age and everything else. He's not the type of player that I can imagine being at the club for a long period of time. But I would definitely have him for one more season. I think if there is a deal to be done, obviously that 26 million buyout clause that has now expired. And I think Spurs will have deliberately done that to try and get a cheaper deal. It's clear that his future is not with Bayern Munich, and our only real competition, it seems, is Sporting Lisbon. So I think absolutely on maybe a 2-year contract, I would definitely take him, especially if we can get him at a cheaper price. For if you'd said at the start of the season you could pay 26 million, and these are the goals that he would score, 2 bicycle kicks, the goal to keep you in the Premier League. I think we'd all take that. So for me, it's a no-brainer. You keep him. The only scenario where I think I would understand not going for him is if there is a top player that you're bringing in instead. And at the moment, there's been a tiny bit of noise, but not anything concrete to suggest that there is anyone currently that would do that role. And anyone that is going to do the role is going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and there is that, isn't there? Exactly that. Can anybody do what as well as Palhinha? What are your thoughts on Palhinha, Luke? What would you rather do if you was in charge? Keep him?
I think you need players like him around the squad because he is a warrior and he has the right mentality, I think. And that's one of the things we saw with him, because even when he seemed to drop out the team for a bit, it didn't really affect him. Obviously, a lot's been made of his shortcomings technically. And that was one of the brilliant things that De Zerbi did, which was stop him from having to play in the midfield, and Porro pushed forward and he dropped into the fullback position, which was just really, really clever to make sure that we were sort of maximising his abilities and minimising his weaknesses. But I just think, as you guys mentioned, he popped up with goals at really, really important moments. He always gave 110%. I love the sort of passion that he showed as well in almost every game. Like he did it right in front of where I was sitting in the Everton game, but I saw him do it in a couple of other games as well. He got fouled, fell over, and then he's like celebrating on the floor because he's, he loves those moments in the game. He sort of lives for those. But again, I go back to the same thing I said about Danso. After the Everton game, my dad and I stayed in the stadium for a pint afterwards, and we went back out and saw all the players on the field. And he was just down there signing autographs with everyone. He's a really good bloke as well. He's the right kind of mentality. And maybe if he's happy with not starting every week, depending on what kind of game we're playing, he is the sort of player, because I think we missed this for him when we got rid of Højbjerg. Højbjerg's big skill was he would come on and kind of shore up games a bit and be tough in the midfield. If they were moving through us really quickly, our opposition, Højbjerg would suddenly start putting a stop to that, and it would change the flow of the game late on. Palhinha can definitely do that, but it's whether or not he wants to have that kind of role. But from what I've read, he seems to be giving Spurs his preference, so I would definitely keep him. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, thanks a lot, Luke. Okay, who's next? Well, I think this one kind of takes care of itself. It's Xavi Simons, our number 7. I think I think we're keeping Xavi Simons anyway. Only been here a season, but the fact he's injured, but desperately unlucky for Simons. Obviously missing the World Cup, missed the last 4 or 5 games for us. Melvin, pretty much of a no-brainer, isn't it? You got to keep Xavi Simons.
Yeah, keep. He's still a good player. He'll come back, and I think under De Zerbi, his coaching, I think he'll improve him as well.
Josh?
Yeah, keep. Look, far from an impressive season from Xavi Simons. He's not lived up to the price tag at all yet, but I think it's a real shame that he's picked up this injury at a time when actually his performances started to improve in the Premier League. And for me, the thing with Xavi Simons is in the Champions League, I thought he was actually very, very good in those games that are less physical. And he shows just how much more intense the Premier League is. Even a game against a team like Burnley, it can be more physical and more intense than a game in the Champions League. But for me, he's only going to get better if he recovers well from this injury. And I think under De Zerbi, with the right guidance, there is a very good player there. He needs to use this injury and do the right thing, which is get on the weights, bulk up, and hopefully if we can get a sort of a reignited Xavi Simons post-injury that's learned how to lift a few kilograms, then we could have a really, really good player on our hands.
Definitely. And Luke, Xavi Simons, anything to add there? I saw him doing loads of pull-ups the other day on a short. I mean, that's on the channel. That's pretty good. I've done a lot more than I can do, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think he's got a long road ahead and a tough recovery, but he's young, so hopefully he'll bounce back a bit quicker. But I just want more moments like that second goal against Brighton, because that's what he's got in him. That he actually ironically, I go back to it again. He nicks the ball off Jan-Paul van Hecke, takes a touch into the box just to the right and just pings it into the corner. And he'd been trying that for weeks, hadn't he? We'd seen him blaze it over from that exact position. And this one was under much more pressure against a really good defensive unit. I want to see more of that. I can't wait to see more of that. I know he's going to get there and do it. I think he's brilliant. And plus, if you've seen him on social media, he's fully coys. He's very funny on social media with some of the stuff he posts and his timing of it. So, yeah, I'm fully behind him. So 100% keep, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next player, might split decisions here. Yves Bissouma. Personally, for me, I think it's probably time for Yves Bissouma to go. Melvin, what are your thoughts?
Is he entering his last year of his contract, or is this his final?
I believe
year?
so. No, I believe this is going to be 20. I think he expires 27. I think
It's tricky with Yves Bissouma because when we bought him, the hype was incredible. Because at Brighton, he was, at times unplayable. He was box to box, so tough, scoring goals, physical. Reminded you of kind of how, not Dembele, but like how Sissoko, how tough he used to be, winning every ball, difficult to get past. And we thought maybe we've replaced Moussa Dembele, but he didn't live up to the hype. And he changed a lot of managers. He's a good player, but he just burns too, hot and cold too many times. It's difficult one. I think I would leave it to De Zerbi to decide. I think he's seen him enough in training, but I don't think he played him. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he played hardly any minutes under De Zerbi. I don't think he will be in his plans. I think we need to make a room for other players. So probably next season we don't even have Europe. I think it's an easy one. If you can get a fee for him, relatively low fee, I would sell. I would be happy to sell and make space for other players.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's thank you, Biss, but I think your time's up for me. Josh?
No, absolutely. And I must say quite fiercely, he is a good footballer. And even at times when he played for us this season, he actually was one of our better players in some of those moments. And for me, the problems are all off the pitch. It's his professionalism, it's his attitude. And, one of the comments puts it really well. It says, sad, but this has to go. So much potential, but he just isn't professional enough. He needs to play in an environment where there is less expectation of him. And I completely agree. Unfortunately, this is not a club where you can get up to those off-field antics. And under De Zerbi, if we want to create a winning machine and we want to really transform our fortunes, you need to get rid of players like that. And it is sad because, he's had a lot of stuff go on in his personal life. He's dealt with a lot. I think even when he was at AFCON, he went to AFCON off the back of an injury and then got malaria. He's had a lot of unfortunate stuff happen to him, but, the right characters will stay professional through those moments. So, shame, but he's got to go.
Yeah, Luke, coming around to you. I mean, I think he only played 11 Premier League matches, and he's 29. So you could argue he still kind of should be in his prime. But what's your views on Bissouma?
Yeah, I agree with Josh that there is a really good player there, and that really we should still be seeing some of it. But it's sad we do see this with footballers sometimes; they just seem to sort of tail off a bit. And his contract's done, so he's actually finished this summer. I think. I don't think we will get anything for him. He'll leave on free. So
I thought they'd had the option or had extended it.
I think they've got an option, but I haven't heard that they've taken it. So I don't think.
Okay.
I think they're just going to let him go. I mean, we can always say to him, thanks for Bilbao. He played his part in that game. He was really good. So, and we'll always have that memory. And I'm sure we'll see him back at the stadium in the future at half time for a game, and he'd be welcomed by everyone. So, But yeah, I think it's sort of fizzled out a little bit, and it's a shame because he sort of didn't have the best start either. I remember Conte didn't really play him either, did he? He didn't like playing him when he first came, so bit of a shame for him. That's probably affected his sort of path and time at Tottenham actually, because if he'd have sort of established himself in the team early doors, he would have been difficult to drop. But Conte wasn't having it, so he's played more under Ange, but those first 10 games he was sort of pretty solid under Ange, wasn't he? And that was his best patch in that Ange's first season. So yeah, thanks for everything, Biss, but see you in the future.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Okay, next player, number 9, Richarlison. I'll start this one off. I think it's probably about time Richie leaves. I don't dislike Richarlison as much as perhaps the amount of stick I might have given him, or we've all probably criticised him, I think is a polite way to put it, over the season. But for me, it's probably about time Richarlison moves on. Thank you very much for your efforts. He's had some brilliant games. He's scored some good goals for us, timely goals. That one at Villa really settled us down. But for me, it's probably about time to go. But we must obviously replace him. That caveat, of course, as always. Melvin, what's your thoughts on Richie?
Yeah, what you said. That's what scares me at the moment. If you sell Richarlison, because we let go of Johnson in January, who was our top scorer. Sonny left, who was the previous top scorer, and Harry's been gone for a number of years. So this is our current top scorer in a side that's struggling to score goals. So for me, I don't know if you. It depends who you bring in, because Solanke is injury prone, and we know that. This is our top scorer. Without his goals, we would have been relegated. For me, if you could answer the question who is coming in, if we were bringing in a proven goal scorer, then yeah, I'd say you can sell him and recoup some money. But for me, I'd just keep him on the bench. I think his legs are gone. I don't think he can start games. You could see at the end of the season, he was struggling after 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and he's struggling to run, press. But he's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. He's a good player to have on the bench. Bring him on. He's a moment of chaos. How many times Richarlison comes in and maybe nicks a goal or something like that? I think we need to have proven players, and I don't think we can sell everyone either. I think he's our only fit striker at the moment, because Solanke, for me, I don't know, he can't stay fit for the whole season, and we're not going to keep Koulibaly anyway. So for me, you might as well keep him and bring someone alongside him and then let him go for free, because I think we need a bit of depth with our injury record as well. It's just I'd rather keep him, and because I don't trust that we will replace him adequately, so I'd just rather keep him.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Josh?
No, he's got to go, unfortunately. Look, top scorer this season in a team that's struggling to score goals. Now, imagine if he put in really good performances throughout the season, maybe we would have scored some more goals. For me, the Everton game was the final straw for me. That was a game where we needed every single player to step up, and he was one of the few players. I thought even when Kolo Muani, for all his faults, came on, we got more from Kolo Muani in a short period of time than we'd had for Richie in the opening 60 or so minutes of that game. So, look, he's had a good season. I'm glad that he's stayed clear of serious injury, because he's had, a fair share of that. And there are big moments where he has scored some big goals, but that cannot be the level we aspire to be. If we want to get out of this mess and not be a club in a relegation battle, we need 2 competent strikers as a minimum, 3 competent strikers. And a lot of those attacking players are not good enough. And Richie, unfortunately, it is much the same. Far too hot and cold, not consistent enough. He too has had many injury problems. So as far as I'm concerned, as much as I do genuinely love him, and I sort of love him because he's so bad, the time for him, I think, is up now, and I would like to get some money for him and go out and really invest in those forward positions.
Luke, 11 goals, 4 assists, 29 years old, 1 year left on his contract. What are you doing with Richarlison?
Well, look, people really love the whole stat that it would be 3 years in a row we've sold our top goal scorer, but only one of those players was Harry Kane. And on 2 of those seasons, we finished 17th. Like, it's top goal scorer for a team that finished 17th is usually not that impressive, really. So it's more about being the best of a bad bunch. I heard someone say this, and I kind of agree. I find this really difficult because I do really like him. Again, another person who I thought put an enormous shift in Bilbao, so we'll always have that. And he scored some important goals. He really has. He's, like you said, Craig, that goal against Villa. But he kind of hoodwinks you a bit with his goals, because when you watch him over 90 minutes, his link-up play at times for long periods in a game is entirely non-existent. He's not making short passes. He's not controlling the ball. He's not even looking at the runs. He's doing many basic things really poorly to a really low level in some of the games. Now, one of you guys said it earlier. I think his legs are gone. I was there at the Leeds game, and I remember there was the centre half. Sorry, was actually Joe Rodon. Funnily enough, and we kept playing the ball over the top of Rodon's head. Rishi was quick enough to make the run first, but Rodon would get to it even if he had sort of 4 or 5 yards on him. He would get to it. Rodon would beat him to it, and I just think, where's his legs gone? He's got no pace. You can't have a player playing in a number 9 position in the Premier League that cannot run onto a ball over the top. And that's not to say as Joe Rodon's, still fairly young. He's a good centre half, but Richarlison had the advantage. He should have been able to beat him, and he couldn't. So as soon as you see that, you think this guy is not going to offer anything to the team. You don't look at him on the bench as well, I think, and think he's going to change this. He's going to make a difference when he comes on. He might nick a goal here or there, but he's not a game changer because his hold-up play is poor. He also, something that he used to be quite good at, seems to be really poor at this entire season, really, which was sort of quick finishes in the box. Leeds was a really great example of that, where I think João Palhinha set him up, or it might have been Mawani actually, but the ball was a bit high. It was kind of chipped. It would have been nicer if it was flat, but he just absolutely ballooned it over the bar when really you'd expect your number 9 to be scoring from there. And of course, we ended up drawing that game. We would have been 2-0 up at that point. So despite the goals he did score, I think he missed hatfuls of chances at other times. And I think it's probably time for him to move on. And if he got a move to Saudi, I don't know if that's something he'd be inclined to do. He'd get paid a load of money and probably be able to score some goals in that league and have a nice time, and he would deserve that. So a great player for us for periods, but yeah, definitely time for him to move on.
Yeah, and of course didn't get in the Brazil squad for the World Cup, so yeah, shame for him, of course. Right, next player, number 10, James Maddison. For me, we keep hold of Madders. I think Maddison is, you mentioned it, Luke, fully poised. I think Maddison is all in with Tottenham. Obviously only just come back from injury. Personally, I think Maddison should be possibly in the race for next captain of Spurs should Romero leave. Melvin, what's your views?
Yeah, keep. Great player. I think he showed his quality when he came in. He didn't really... I think he had a chance in, I forgot which game it was. I think Chelsea away. Yes. And he just took half a second to shoot. And one of the Chelsea defenders got in and blocked it. And in my head, I was thinking, maybe that's the ACL and his sharpness is not fully 100% there. And but I think next season he'll be a different player. I think he'll come back much stronger. He's a player we need. I'll be excited to see what he does under De Zerbi. He's not old, but he's not quite young either. I think he's just right in his peak age. With the current injury that he has, I think he'll need maybe a few months to really pick up speed and be, at peak sharpness. But Maddison is a great player. Such a great touch, such a great pass. I'll look forward to see him score, his first goal. He's been out for so long, and football can be quite cruel with that kind of injury. But I think Maddison was a big reason why we made it to the Europa League final last under Ange. I think he had crucial goals, crucial moments, and I think there's a reason most Premier League managers were talking so nicely about him and giving him all praise, because Maddison is I think a quality player. It'll be nice to see them eventually all play together. Xavi, Maddison, Kulusevski, Wilson Alderweireld, all these players that are out and have serious injuries. It'll be nice to see them eventually play all together, because I think it's been such a weird feeling seeing all of these players out. We have a good squad of players, but being injured for so long, you just feel that you just give up hope that you're ever going to see them play again. And having Maddison back was, I think it gave everyone quite a big boost. In the fan base, the playing squad, the staff, and I think Maddison probably came in at the right moment. He didn't really contribute, a significant amount, but him being there on the pitch, I think, really gave everyone in the crowd and around the whole club quite a big lift. So for me,
Absolutely.
massive keep.
Thanks, Melvin. Josh, of course, Maddison comes back almost 9 months to the day after he injured that knee. Probably came back right on the limit, the earliest point he could, and probably didn't want to have to come in and help the team. I know he's probably gagging to, but ideally probably would have just waited till next season. But as Melvin said, he did help us in those last few games, didn't he? What's your thoughts on Maddison?
Sorry, I'm in amazement at some of the comments I've been reading about James Maddison. Keep, and there shouldn't even need to be an explainer for it. Keep all day long.
Short and sweet. I like that. Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. Luke, what's your thoughts on James Maddison?
Yeah, I think he's obviously a fan favourite, and what Melvin said about the boost that it gave just having him on the bench, that was a bit of I think if that was a sort of a bit of a ploy by De Zerbi, because he knew he wasn't quite ready yet, but it would just give everyone a boost, and it was a bit of genius, because I was in the crowd when he was first announced, when that came out, and there was a bit of a buzz that Maddison's back, things could change, he could be the one to come on and do something, and of course that didn't fall on him in the end, but it didn't matter. I think everyone felt a little bit more positive, and you could see that sharpness in him and that creativity even when he came on against Chelsea and against Leeds. And of course I think that was a penalty against Leeds, but there you go. I think keep 100%, because I think he should just stay at the club for the rest of his career. I think he should retire at the club, and the way he speaks, he's so articulate when he talks about the team and what's going on. He's the sort of conduit that a manager needs between himself and the players, and that's what makes him a leader. Would I make him the captain, though? I don't know if I would, simply because I don't know if he will play every week or be a key figure. If De Zerbi's going to be like, I'm building this team around Maddison, then he makes a good choice for captain. But I wonder if, I'm not sure. I think we'll see what happens in the transfer market. I think the thing about him is that you look at 10s in the league at the moment, and some of the best 10s have something that he doesn't quite have. And this is a criticism that's always been there with him. And this is why I think he needs to be part of a squad where he is being supplemented by players who can sort of fill in the weaknesses that he might have. And his weakness is clearly physicality. And if you look at someone like Morgan Rogers and Morgan Gibbs-White, and there's some bloke at Arsenal as well, I can't remember his name, but they play in the 10 role and they have a bit more physicality about them. They are stronger on the ball, they shoot from distance more often and successfully. Maddison doesn't quite have that as much as they do. So I think that we need a player like that, perhaps, who can play in the 8 role to make up for the fact that both Xavi and Maddison are a little bit more lightweight. We need a stronger ball-playing midfielder who's got that sort of creative level too to complement the two of them. But yeah, I mean, 100% keep. I love the guy, and as you said, Craig, he's 100% coys. He's so fully in on it. He says how much he loves the club all the time, and you know, you can't help when you have a player like that. You just want them to stay forever. So yeah, you know, his tears in the Europa League final when he wasn't even playing, I will never ever forget that. That was you know, a beautiful thing. So yeah, 100% keep.
Let's hope he can stay fit next season. It'd be lovely to have a fit James Maddison for a whole season, wouldn't it? Okay, moving on. Matisse Tell, 4 goals, only 1 assist. Melvin, what are you doing with Matisse Tell?
Keep. I'm a fan of his, even though he's really frustrating as a player. Incredibly frustrating. I think he holds on to the ball quite too much. Doesn't pass when he needs to pass, shoots when sometimes, you know, a better player is in a better position. I think I have to remind everyone that he's only 21, and I had to look this up. He's 21 in April, which is insanely young for a player, for a winger especially. I just think for his age, he's really, really good, and you see it when he plays for France in the under-21s, because he scores worldies and makes them look, you know, foolish. For his age, I think he's really, really good. I don't think we're at a stage where we can afford to loan a player like him, unless we bring in, you know, a couple of wingers and all of a sudden there's no game time for him and he's going to be on the bench. I think then that's where you can possibly loan him out. But I think for his quality, I think De Zerbi rather keep him here and work with him, improve him, you know, get these little things that annoy me, you know, out of his game. But I think Matisse Tell is a good player. I don't understand why Frank didn't use him, especially when, you know, we were missing left wingers last season, but scored a good goal, you know, but then conceded the penalty against Leeds. So he has that type of you know moment in him. But like I said, he's a frustrating player, but I think he showed, you know, more than enough quality on the ball at times. But he just needs to mature and develop into the winger that I know he can be. So for me, I would keep him.
Okay. Josh, a lot of people saying, including Melvin there, he's got a lot of potential, has scored goals this season. What are you doing with Matisse Tell?
He does have potential. I think half the problem with Tell is, you know, he hasn't yet reached anywhere near where I think he can reach. He was at Bayern Munich for a reason. But, you know, is he a winger? Is he a striker? I'm not really sure. I think that's something De Zerbi has to work out. And if he can't work that out, then he may need to sell. But we also have to be realistic about the position we're in. I mean, I'm seeing comments saying we should be signing Rafa Leao and Victor Osimhen and players like this, who we're simply not going to sign. We're not in Europe, and we've been in 2 relegation battles in a row. We're not going to be able to overhaul the entire squad in one transfer window either. And I think Tell has just about done enough to deserve to stay. Do I think he's a starter week in, week out? Absolutely not. But do I see enough of a player there where hopefully under De Zerbi with a bit more time he could develop? Yes. And I think give him one more season. And if he cannot develop under this, under De Zerbi this season coming up, then we can look to sell him next summer, where he'll, of course, be 22, which is still incredibly young. And I'm sure there'll be teams willing to take a punt on him. But I think, you know, there are bigger priorities of players to get rid of than Matisse Tell right now. And I would love to see him develop. And I think that his attitude's great. Someone said he's a selfish player. I actually don't mind that. My issue with Tell and his selfishness is his success in the take-ons. I actually think we need more players that can take on their man. And I like the fact that he tries, but far too often he doesn't succeed. So hopefully with the right coaching, he'll get better. So yeah, for me, I would keep him unless you're going to buy 2 top, wingers and strikers as well, which is not going to happen in one window. So yeah, keep this season, give him another shot. Hopefully next season we'll bear the fruits of that.
Yeah, for me, probably keep hold of Matisse Tell, because he was one of the few in those last 5 or 6 games. I thought he was almost player of those 6 games, in my opinion. Like you, Josh, I did get frustrated with him at times. I don't think his end product is the best. I think he sometimes makes the wrong decisions, but then again, he's such a young player, as Melvin said. So I think you can definitely see a player in there. And to be honest, during those last few games, he was the only one that was trying stuff, getting on the ball, running at players, because let's face it, nobody else in that starting 11 could actually do what he does. So, Luke, what's your thoughts on Tell?
Yeah, I would keep him, because I think what you guys are saying about the frustration, as you say, is just because of his inexperience, but also that feeling of frustration that we're getting is because of the moments we were in where we felt he needed to really do something for us, and we were relying on 19, 20-year-old to open teams up or to play the perfect ball into the box or to be defensively sound, when he is inexperienced in the Premier League and at that level. Like he can't play every week, but he had to at the end of the season because we had no other choice. And the overhead kick against Leeds was totally mad, but it's the sort of thing that you learn from. But if you're having to be thrown into that situation where there should be a more senior player there, really, it shows really, really poor squad building, because what he should be allowed to do is to play 25 minutes, half an hour of a game at the end, and show his talent when he's full of energy, when the opposition are flagging, not having to play 90 minutes every week because we haven't got anyone else in that position. So Tell was doing something he shouldn't, I think, have had to have done, even though I'm sure he was very happy to get the minutes, but he was sort of, making more mistakes because he was on the pitch for longer. You probably don't see players of his age getting quite as many minutes. You don't see quite as many mistakes. And I think hopefully that means he will progress faster. And I think we will have a better player on our hands next season and the season after. The other thing to say about him that is a real talent that he has that people don't really, I don't ever hear anyone say, and I watched him do it so many times, his actual ability from dead balls is actually really good. His corners were excellent at times. When you had Porro playing it from one side and him from the other, it meant the burden wasn't on Porro to take all of the corners, which meant you positionally didn't lose shape as well, which was something that actually happened quite a few times under Frank, when Porro was taking corners from the opposite side and then he was having to pelt back to get into the fullback position because they hadn't seemingly organised themselves to set the defence up properly for a counter. So Tell doing that from that side was really beneficial, and I watched him put in a number of brilliant balls. I think you say only got 1 assist. I cannot believe that he only got 1 assist. That's mad, really, because I think what actually happened is he put the ball into dangerous positions a number of times. It pinged about and someone else put it in. He would have had way more assists, and I think some people call it I've heard people call it the pre-assist before. It's like the ball that really split it sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But it's the ball that split the defense in half. No, it's getting worse. But the point was that it was the play that made the attack happen, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
And then there maybe was a simpler pass that followed it that got the assist. So I think that, he was really, really crucial at certain points. But yeah, he at times he would try and take people on. He would step on the ball and then do a few step overs and immediately lose it. Really frustrating. He needs to know when to hold the ball up and stuff like that. He'll learn that. And you can see if De Zerbi likes him, he's going to learn that under De Zerbi. But I'd love to see a proper winger that's got a bit more experience than him, playing ahead of him, and the two of them sharing a bit more time rather than all the burden on Matisse. But yeah, I'd keep him 100%.
Okay, next player, Destiny Udogie. 20 times he played for Spurs last season in the Premier League, Melvin. Only 14 starts. What are you doing with Udogie?
Keep, especially now that we have adequate cover, allegedly. But yeah, for me, keep. Like I said before, I'm excited to see which players improve under De Zerbi and by how much. And I think Destiny Udogie could be definitely one of them. I think his first season when he came to us, he was just ridiculous. So strong, so powerful. Runs and runs and runs quite fast. I think he needs to develop a partnership with a winger. I think if they say we might get Savinho. If Savinho plays with him and constantly cuts on his left, it's tricky because he's a good player. He's obviously injury prone, and this season struggled to get game time consistently because he plays 1 or 2 games and then he gets another knock and he's out for a good amount of time and then does it again and again and again, and it's frustrating because he's a good player. We've seen what he can do. In his first season under Ange, he was really, really good, getting consistently goals, assists, and we've not seen that kind of player for a long time. But I think there is a player there. If he gets, proper rest between games, I think the Premier League is quite physical, quite demanding. Maybe he needed a year to settle in properly. His body adapts to the league. There's multiple factors. Maybe under De Zerbi, they can. I don't know. They said Ange's training was too much for certain players. I don't know what's going to happen next season with injuries. But hopefully, if he stays fit, he's a really good defender to have. I think he's always going to start for me. I would always have him in the team sheet. Like I said, under De Zerbi, fellow Italian, I think he can probably get the best out of him, and we might see the best Udogie so far, the best version of him. So for me, definitely keep. I'm excited to see what kind of player he can develop into. And
Okay.
All I know is Italian teams are sniffing around. I think Juventus really want him, and I honestly could see him fit in any of their teams. So yeah, I definitely keep him.
Okay. So keep for Melvin. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, 100% keep. I don't understand anyone that says to sell him. Robertson coming in, I think, is actually really good news for Udogie. To have someone with that level of experience, that quality, although Robertson's not perhaps the player he was back in, the Klopp days, he's still a very good player and he's someone that will go toe to toe with Udogie. Ben Davies has been, past it for quite some time now, and it's sort of developed into a centre back more than a left back. We've not really had much competition for Udogie since he's been at the club. So to have someone that, in Robertson that could equally start games, I think that's going to raise that level. I think the system's going to really benefit Udogie, and hopefully a kind of a radical overhaul in the medical department. And I know the club's doing a review on all of these injuries. That will help too, because thankfully for Udogie, it's not been too many serious injuries, but enough niggling injuries that means that he just misses too many games throughout the season. But for me, I think there's clearly a player there. He's only 23. That's still young. And I think he will improve under De Zerbi. So absolutely keep. And I think it's good that, with Robertson coming in, that for the first time, I think we've got 4 fairly competent fullbacks in a long time. So, with Porro and Spence on one side and Udogie and Robertson on the other, I think that's a pretty good starting point to kind of kick on.
Absolutely. Luke?
I think Udogie is one of a few players we mentioned. I was talking about Tell just now, who has suffered from the poor squad planning at Spurs. The fact that we've had a single natural left back for 2 years. I mean, like you say, Josh said that Ben Davies has been past it for a while and sort of moved really into centre half position because his pace wasn't really up to playing at fullback. We've had one left back for 2 years. That's ridiculous. It's not surprising that his injury record's so bad. He was having to bear the burden of being the only sort of real attacking left back. We're so lucky that Jed Spence can play there, but he's not a natural left back. And it managed to, under Frank, it was really dampening our attack because he was having to turn inside so much because he couldn't take it on his left foot. And that was a real problem. So I think another player coming in like Robertson's more experienced, who will obviously be in his ear in training as well, is really good for a doggy. But I'm afraid I'm going to say that if somebody came in with a big offer because they wanted an Italian player back in Serie A, I would sell him. I would rather keep him, but I think if somebody came in with big money for him, I would say sell him, because despite the fact that his injury record, I think, is not his fault, I don't think he's actually injury prone. I don't think his output is good enough. I think what De Zerbi wants as well, I watched Brighton a lot under De Zerbi, and he had Estepinian play there quite a lot. And his output was a lot better than the doggies. And I think he needs to be able to get more assists and goals. And I think he's not brilliant at that side of it. He's strong, he's powerful, he's quite a good defender. But there needs to be better output from him, I think, for De Zerbi to want to keep him. I think De Zerbi will keep him. As you said, I think the Italian connection helps as well. But there are some other fullbacks in the league that I think get slightly better numbers in the Premier League, and I think would do slightly better than him. But I like him a lot and would be very happy if he stayed. But like I say, if someone came in with a ridiculous offer, I'd take it and I'd go for someone else.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We all think about these players, and nobody's like unsellable, I suppose, in this squad. That's how I'd look at it, other than the likes of James Maddison, Mickey van der Ven for me, but perhaps a couple of others. But yeah, it is funny how you view players like that, isn't it? Want to keep him, but if a big offer comes, perhaps we could all do Johan Langer's job better than he does, I reckon. Some would say that the fan's good. Let's not get into that one. That's for another podcast. Right, next one, Melvin. Archie Gray, number 14. Didn't get loads of minutes under Roberto De Zerbi, but did play 24 matches in the Premier League. Started 18 of those, 2 goals and 2 assists. Funnily enough, more assists for Archie Gray than for Matisse Tell. What do you think about Archie Gray?
Definitely keep. I think he's probably one of the most promising youth player that we have. Still 20 years old, bags of potential. I thought Thomas Frank was going to be the one that unlocks him and develops him, but he did fuck all. I think De Zerbi will enjoy coaching him and getting the best out of him. This first season he played, in midfield. Before he was playing, centre back, right back, all over the place, filling in whenever he can. But bags of potential, great player. Really, really excited to see what De Zerbi will do with him, and I will 100% keep him.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Josh, we haven't had a loan yet. What do you think about Archie Gray?
No, not at all. Echo everything Melvin says. Shouldn't even be a discussion as far as I'm concerned. Brilliant season. Only going to get better. Incredibly young. Keep.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Luke.
Yeah, keep. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I think we're going to have like a season, maybe next year or maybe the year after, where he'll just have that breakthrough season. And suddenly we'll be like, this is the player we've wanted. And Ange actually said that, didn't he? He's like, I hope I'm around to be the coach when this guy sort of hits his stride. But yeah, keep him.
A lot of love for Archie Gray in the comments, I have to say. Some people saying loan him, but most people saying keep. I think that's fair to say. Okay, another young player, Swedish international Lucas Bergvall, 23 Premier League games this season, started 11, 1 goal and 3 assists. Again, more assists than Matisse Tell, which is mental when you think about it, that Tell plays on the wing. I'm not digging out Matisse Tell, by the way. I'm just pointing out facts. Melvin, what do you think for Lucas Bergvall?
I think he's the one I would loan out. I know.
Oh, really? Okay.
You can't keep them both. We don't have Europe, right? So So we only have the cup games, and our midfielders we have quite, an amount of players, and there are others that might come in as well. So when are they going to play? These players need to develop, and I think he played Archie Graham and Lucas against
Sunderland, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think quickly realized that they aren't experienced enough, and then he always went with experience until the end of the season, and we didn't see them again. They hardly played any minutes, and I think you can't keep them both. Even though I would love to see what De Zerbi would do, I think in training he will develop him, but I think a loan is also something that they can do. I think the club need to decide, players need to decide. I think his development kind of stagnated this season. I don't think we've seen. I think this is the first season Archie Gray played in his position, and Bergvall's been playing in his positions since we bought him in. But I just think he's 20 years old. 20 for a for a midfielder, still really young. I think a year away wouldn't do any harm. I would loan him personally.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Josh.
I'm actually with Melvin on this. I think with the lack of games this season, and of course, there's no excuse for not trying to have a good cup run now that we're out of Europe. I just think I don't quite know what midfielder Bergvall is. I think he's a very good midfielder. I think he's a very good player, and I think the way that he presses and runs is exactly what De Zerbi will want. But I think it was the proof was in the pudding a little bit, where when De Zerbi came in, Bergvall's game time completely diminished. He wanted more experienced players there. And I think having brought in Gallagher in January, and Gallagher is going to play a lot, Bentancur being back from injury, and Maddison obviously being fit again, I think, we just don't have enough space. So for me, I'd like him to go to a Premier League club. And there are plenty of clubs where I think he'd do very well. I'd love to see him at a Brentford, a Brighton, perhaps one of the newly promoted clubs as well. Give him a season, and hopefully another manager can find that sort of niche for him, that best position. And then next season, we're looking at a player that's kind of been one of the first names on the team sheet elsewhere in the Premier League. And we've got a far more experienced, ready-made player. I think he's not quite there yet. He's so young. But boy, is he going to be a hell of a player in the future, that's for sure. But I think, Premier League loan is what I'd like to see.
Luke?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's what I'd go for as well. I think it has to be a Premier League loan, I think, because we want him to get up to the pace of the Premier League. Sending him to another European league wouldn't work because every league is slightly different. I think that the only way I would keep him is dependent on what happens with the transfer business. And if any of our other midfielders do move on, then it would be good to have him as a sort of understudy to another player in that position who's a bit more experienced. But yeah, I agree I think the best option probably would be a loan to another Premier League side.
Perhaps Coventry, a lot of people are saying here. Or some people are saying here. Yeah, that would be interesting. Okay. Yeah, probably learn a lot under Lampard, you'd think, when you're very probably similar players. You ask just what sort of player he is. Could he turn into a Frank Lampard kind of player? Who knows? Okay, next on the list, number 17, captain Christian Romero, 4 goals last season. Melvin, what are you doing with Romero?
Tricky one, because obviously club captain and World Cup winner. For me, I love Romero. I love everything about him. I love the way he plays. I love, I know people call it reckless, but I love that he plays for the badge. I know he gets it wrong sometimes. Scored 5 goals this season. Without those goals, we would not have stayed up. I remember the bicycle kick against Newcastle. But for me, I don't know. I was selling. I think probably one of the worst captains we've had in probably in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I think his behavior has been not really good off the pitch. For me, I would sell. I think he's probably someone you can make really good money off, especially if he has a really good World Cup. You can make 50, 60 million off of him. Thank you for Bilbao, especially because I thought he was, sensational that game. Bullied Harry Maguire, got into his head. Was one of the best players on the pitch that day. Europa League winner with us. Thank you. And I think we've already found a decent replacement, and so, which is something nice to see, that the club's already. They're already thinking ahead that he could be on the way out, so we'll sign a replacement. So for me, quite easy sell. Recoup as much money as you can, invest it back into the squad.
I totally agree. Difficult one, because on his day he's a sensational defender. Unfortunately, he hasn't been available enough this season, and he's let us down a couple of times. So for me, it's probably best that he goes and we get a bit of money for him and it's invested back into the squad. Josh, what do you think about Christian Romero?
Melvin, you said you love how he plays for the badge. Yes, the Argentina badge, not the Tottenham Hotspur badge. Let him gone. Look, there's no doubting Romero has some great qualities and is a good player, but he's one of the few players that we could actually get a considerable transfer fee from, and that we have to factor in. And I saw more out of Kevin Danso than I saw out of Romero, from a defensive point of view. And unfortunately, when does Romero get red cards? He always gets red cards in the big games against the big teams. And that's where, as a captain, you've got to lead by example. And I don't think he sets a good standard or a good example. I hate how long he takes on the ball. It feels like when he has the ball at his feet, he waits about 10 seconds for anything to happen. For me, easy sell. I don't think he wants to be at the club. I don't know, but I would assume he doesn't want to be at the club. He can go to Atletico Madrid, where I think he would be unbelievable under a manager like Diego Simeone. But yeah, for me, let's move on.
Okay. And Luke?
I think over a period of about 3 years, Romero was in the top 3 players in the Premier League for progressive passing. His progressive passive stats put him in the top 3. The other 2 players in that top 3, funnily enough, and it's often centre halves because they play from deep, which means that their progressive passing is a bit easier than a midfielder who's already a bit further up the pitch. But the other 2 players in that top 3 over those last few years have been Virgil van Dijk and Jan-Paul van Hecke. So you can actually see why it's not a coincidence that we've been linked with Van Hecke when it looks like Romero might be going. His availability has been horrendous, and a lot of that has been to do with his own decision-making. I think he's incredibly passionate, but he's aimlessly passionate a lot. He just sort of throws it around with just nonsense aggression. And he is also slightly a victim of poor squad planning, because he doesn't do that ever for Argentina. You don't see him do that for Argentina, because in the Argentina squad, most of the players around him are a lot older than him. He played, I think, in the World Cup when they won it. He had Otamendi next to him for a while. He's got older heads around him that tell him, calm down, step back a bit. At Spurs, he was suddenly, I think when Ange came in, he suddenly became the most experienced defender that we had. He was more experienced than the goalkeeper behind him as well. And a player with a hot head like that, you need someone to be in his ear telling him to calm down. And Van de Ven wasn't going to do it. He was younger and had just joined the club. So I think that was poor squad planning again. And there is also this stigma with Romero. We all say it. We see a challenge happen in another game. And we go, if that was Romero, that would be a red card. And whilst it might be true that he does get refereed differently, there has to come a point in time where we as a club have to say, let's move that person on, because I do think they are being ref differently. But it's affecting the club. It's affecting our matches. that player can go play in Spain and have a nice time. But we'll say, again, this is the nice thing we can say in this show. Thank you for Bilbao, because you were right. I think Melvin said it. He was absolutely immense in Bilbao.
It was unbelievable, wasn't he?
He wrapped up Harry Maguire, and Maguire was just completely rattled. It was brilliant. We'll never, ever, ever forget that. And, that is a legendary moment. But we will also remember a lot of those absolutely unnecessary crunching tackles. And the last thing I would say on them, you see the PGMOL review of mistakes this season. He was the only one who should have been sent off twice and wasn't.
That's a great stat. That's a great stat. Yeah. Okay, next player we come on to is Dominic Solanke. And I've just got to share, because I'm getting these from, I don't know the players' numbers off by heart in order. But if you can just see on my screen here, this is what I'm looking at, Dominic Solanke. And if you look down the bottom, if you can see it on the screen, I'm not sure. Yes, I think you can. Age 56. This is on the official Spurs website. This isn't me making something up. It's saying Dominic Solanke is 56 years old. I think that's wrong, but it just tickled me. I just thought I'd share that because I thought it was quite funny. 56-year-old Dominic Solanke, Melvin. What you do? I can't get over that. That is honest God. Go and have a look now. Dominic Solanke is 56, apparently. Go and have a look. Dominic Solanke, what are you doing with this young man? And while you do that, I'm going to refill my water.
Tricky one, because if he wasn't injury prone, I would say keep all day. But I think the club needs to figure out what's wrong with these players, that they can't stay fit, they can't play. You can't rely on him the entire, consistently. He's if we sell Richarlison, he's our only striker, recognized striker. When he played, when he was fit, he was okay. Did nothing, other than the City goal, just the scorpion kick, which was crazy. I think Solanke is a decent player. If you play, when he played under Engine, we had a system. He was quite effective with his pressing and his build-up play. It'll be interesting what De Zerbi does with him. Obviously, we haven't seen any of him this season. We couldn't see anything with Frank. We didn't see anything with Tudor. He came in, played a little bit, was injured again, didn't really come back match fit. Don't know what's going to happen with him. You don't know what Solanke is going to turn up, if he can get over his injury problems. He's, hit or miss. If you say you sell him and you recoup some money and you invested in another striker, I would say sell him. I think if you get 25 million for him, I would sell him. But with Spurs and with Tottenham and this board and the way we recruit players, I just never trust them that they will find someone better. So I always end up saying keep for that reason, because I'm afraid they will get someone who's worse or will contribute, less than Solanke has last season. So for that reason, I'll say keep.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Personally, I would just about keep Solanke. I would. It's the same selling Richarlison, but you've got to bring in somebody that's going to challenge him. Josh, what's your thoughts on Solanke?
Yeah, I don't think he's our starting striker, but I think there's enough there to keep him. Remember, there's quotas that we have to fill in terms of homegrown and these types of things as well.
Good point.
If we want to be back in Europe, that's going to become a thing. So, look, as far as I'm concerned, keep him. Hopefully he stays fit. Give him more minutes. But we've got to go out and sign a top striker. And I think, really I want Solanke to be doing the job that Richarlison should have been doing. And that's being effective off the bench. And in those moments and in certain games where he's called upon, you've got a pretty reliable striker there. In his first season, he was actually very good. I thought he had a good first season for us. But of course, this season he's been really struggling with injury. So if he can get back to the level he was at in his first season, there's no reason why we wouldn't want that as a sort of backup striker and as someone that can kind of come in as and when. I think that's exactly what we need. Do I think he is Do I think he's a Champions League level striker? No, I don't. Again, similarly to Tell, I think give him one more year, and if we need to replace him in the summer because he's not contributed or he keeps getting injured, then let's look at it there. We're not gonna change the whole squad overnight. So if we're getting rid of Richarlison, let's keep Solanke as a backup.
Luke?
Yeah, I don't. I wonder if he was sort of not really fit enough when he came back, to be honest, from his injury, because one of the things Ange was using him for was his pressing abilities, and we didn't really see that once he came back from injury. He didn't seem to be fit enough. I mean, he scored, like you said, a really good goal against City. There's definitely a really talented player in there, and I think he needs to be part of a squad. I think if he ends up being, the lead number 9 going into the season, I wonder if his fitness problems and the fact that he hasn't had a particularly productive year or so would not be the best situation. He's not the quickest either, I don't think. But he's talented. He's got skill and ability, and he's good. He's a good finisher. So, yeah, I think keep, but keep, but with the caveat of keep till January is what I'm going to say, which I know is a bit of a twist on it. But I think that if he is not showing some sort of output by January, or if he's fallen way down the pecking order, then a loan from January would be the right way forward.
Can I just jump in on that quickly? Because
go for it.
People don't often realise he scored 6 goals in 20 appearances, which is a better goals per game ratio than anyone else in our attacking. I think he's got the best goals per game out of all of our attacking players, midfielders included. So despite the fact that he's been injured, I don't think 6 goals in 20 appearances, and bear in mind he didn't play 90 minutes in all of those, it is not actually that bad. And I think that's exactly, if he's playing double the games, he's going to have probably a better output than Richarlison, and possibly would have been our top scorer this season. So, I think for that reason alone, he's got to, it might not be by much. And I think the goals per game ratio for Richarlison is something like 1 every 3.5 games. And for Solanke, it's like 1 every 3.3 games. So it's not great, but considering he's been in and out with injury, is it that bad a return?
Yeah, valid point. And for his age as well. 56. Wow. Talking about players at 56. Coming on to the next one, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the Spurs website, but they've got Mohamed Kudus being 56 as well, if you look at the bottom there. So Mohamed Kudus is 56. Can you believe it? So what are we going to do? Honestly, so anyway, 19 goals. Obviously, he was injured for a large part of this. 19 matches, 19 started, 2 goals, 5 assists. Obviously, we all remember that it all started to go wrong. You can argue a bit before that when Kudus got injured, but obviously a big influence to our team. Didn't help our struggles last season. Melvin, Mohamed Kudus.
Yeah, massive keep. We need players like him. I think our front 3 needs massive improvement, and I think he will be a definite starter. If not, he's a very, very good option to have off the bench. But for me, hopefully, he comes back from his injury. It's been, I guess, quite a serious one because he's been out for quite a bit. He had to do surgery. But now I don't think he's been chosen for the World Cup either. So he'll have a good rest and hopefully come back stronger and excited. He's probably another one. If De Zerbi can get 10-20% more out of this kind of player, I think we'll be okay with Mohamed Kudus. He's quick, fast, strong, and very excited to see what he does next season. So keep, 100% keep.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Josh?
Yeah, keep 100%. One of our best players. When fit, he's a nailed-on starter. So absolutely keep, no doubts about it. Hopefully, I think he's due to come back in time for pre-season. Because obviously, I think he's missing the World Cup, isn't he, for Ghana? So, he's got
He was close. Apparently, he was close there, but it just came a little bit too soon for him. So, yeah, shame for him. Luke.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do under De Zerbi. I wonder if De Zerbi might even want to use him in the 10 role a bit more. But I think, he's such an exciting player that was definitely misused under Frank. It was like watching someone take a Ferrari to Tesco's. It was just a bit depressing. Lumping the ball up the wing from Porro and just expecting him to do everything with it. And I think he played the most consecutive games of any player, including Porro, who is usually always on the pitch. So I'm not surprised he ended up getting injured when he did. I thought I'd read some different information about him, actually, that his operation means he could actually miss the start of the season. But hopefully we get him back quickly, because he'd be really crucial on that right side. And I can't see Kulusevski making it back anytime soon. Who knows what's going on with him?
Well, that's a good lead and good introduction into the next player, Dejan Kulusevski. Obviously, you haven't seen him for over a year, been out all last season. Melvin, Dejan Kulusevski.
With him, I have this massive knot in my stomach whenever I think about him, and because he was probably one of the most exciting players that we had. Loved watching him play. Sadly, my friend had the same injury, and he can barely go up the stairs. When it rains, his knee hurts. Sometimes it locks up, and this was 6 years ago. And I speak to him, and he tells me about how difficult normal things are. Literally the same injury. He did his falling off a motorcycle. And he obviously doesn't have sports scientists helping him. But Kulusevski is just, you don't know what kind of player is going to come back. He's, on his days, he's brilliant. And I've watched that video he did, Day in the Life. Such a great guy, such a great character. You would think he'd be entering his prime, at this moment. You just don't know what kind of player is going to come back. Obviously, I don't know how left he has contract-wise. I think it's maybe 2 years left, and he's nearing the end of his contract. I don't know if he's going to be fit for the summer. It's the type of injury that, it doesn't get blood circulation in that place, so it doesn't really heal. You just have to kind of let it settle down and kind of level out on its own. It's a really nasty injury to have. I tried to read about it and understand what happened, and it's just, he has belief in himself, and if there's a player to come back and get past it, it's probably him. He has such self-confidence and belief in the way he speaks, and I just miss him as a player, miss having him on the pitch, and I wish that injury never happened to him, and we got to see Kulusevski, develop and grow as a player. It just makes me sad, honestly. Makes me sad. So it's keep for me, but you never know when or what kind of condition he's going to come back.
Sorry, I was on mute. Josh.
Yeah, desperately sad. I do fear for his career. I don't think he is going to be done in football, even if he's done on the pitch. We don't know what could happen. It could be another year before we see him return to the pitch, if at all. And that's desperately sad, because he's been one of my favourite players over the last few years at the club. And for me was one of the first names I would have given you if we were having a debate here about who was going to be our captain next season, had he not suffered this injury at all. And I love how good a leader he is. I love his mentality, how hard he works. There's some amazing memories we've got with Kulusevski. I mean, Man City will be delighted with his injury, because he absolutely terrorizes them every single time he plays against them. What a brilliant player, and how we've missed him this season, that work rate. Not having a competent 10 all season, he would have been perfect in many of those games. I really just hope that he can recover soon. And by the way, just a slight side note for those interested in Melvin's comment, because I had to Google this. When you said about your friend and it hurts, his knees hurt in the rain, this is because of a drop in barometric pressure, which is the weight of the atmosphere, which means that your tissues, muscles and tendons expand, which can trigger nerve pain. So if you're suffering an injury like that, that's why it might sound really bizarre to say your knee hurts in the rain, but that's apparently what causes it. But yeah, I mean, it's just so sad to see such a great player suffer such a terrible injury. And the fact that, it's the way that he was treated as well once he had that injury, not enough care taken by the medical staff at all. And I think the club really owe it to the fans to give a detailed explanation as to what's going on. And I think anyone who has been following this has heard what the Sweden doctor has had to say. He seems to be the only one that's actually opened up about it. So that update was not good. So, I would be very, very pleasantly surprised if we see him at some point next season, or if at all on a football pitch again, which is such a shame. But we have to keep him under contract, because when you've got an injury like that, no one's going to buy him.
Quite, and I was going to say exact same thing, Josh. Nobody's going to even take a risk on Kulusevski, sadly. Let's hope we see him next season and he's back fit. Luke.
Yeah, I was there when he scored that last second winner against, it was Sheffield United, I think, a couple of years back, and that was just brilliant moment. And you guys spoke really well about him. Actually, I think it's so sad, and I really hope he turns it around. I think it was Ronaldo, as he is not the Cristiano, he's going to play until he's 100, but the other Ronaldo, the Brazilian one, I think that was what ended his career as well. He was obviously quite a bit older and I think carrying a bit of timber by that point. But I actually find myself thinking about it every couple of weeks. I'm like, poor Kulusevski, he's all right.
If we'd had him, absolutely. If we'd had him, God, could we have done with him? Yeah, such a shame. And the fact Ange said it was just a knock, mate. And because at the time that's probably what he was told by the medical team, just a knock. And crikey, over a year later he's still out. Right, okay, we're going to have to speed things up a little bit because we've got a lot of incomings we want to talk about at the end, which is what everybody wants to get into. So we're going to try and get through. We've still got 20 players to get through because this is including all the young lads that have been on loan. So first of these, Melvin, Pat Matissar.
I think he's one of the players I would sell. I know there's potential there, but I think we need to make space. I think we need to make some money as well. We're not seeing much of him. De Zerbi might be a fan, but I think I would sell and recoup some money.
I agree, actually. A few people are saying sell already. I would sell Pat Matissar. Well, there's a keep there. Josh?
Sell. Unfortunately, he's a Fulham or Sunderland player all day long. I had such high hopes for him, given the way he'd started pre-season, and actually the start this season he looked really good. But it's really fallen away, and he's been at the club a few years now and not quite kicked on. So yeah, for me, I think let's try and get some money. I think he'd do very well at a sort of another club aspiring for mid-table or Premier League survival, but not for where we want to be.
Luke?
We'll always have the assist in Bilbao, won't we? But I think he's one of those players, unfortunately, in the midfield that has not really carved out his exact position because he's not been really brilliant at any one thing. So I would definitely sell him because I think it's a good point in his career to actually get some money for him. Okay,
thank you. Rodrigo Bentancur, for me, on his performances alone, the last third of the season, last quarter of the season, thought he was one of the players of that period. For me, I think we need to keep hold of Rodrigo Bentancur. Melvin?
Yeah, definitely keep. I think one of probably the main reasons that we stayed up when he came back from injury, solidified the midfield. I think when he was being substituted, I think that's when we were losing control of the matches. I think Bentancur is very important for us going forward. So definite keep.
Josh.
Fully fit Bentancur for me is our best central midfielder. Keep completely. He's at the perfect age now. Good experience. Played at a high level. Yeah, fantastic towards back end of the season. Definitely keep.
And Luke.
Sell for me. I don't like him. I'm his biggest detractor. Don't like him at all. I think that he goes. Sorry, guys. He goes to sleep in games quite a lot. You're right, he was absolutely fantastic for those few games when he came in. I think De Zerbi got right at him and got the best out of him. But right towards the end, he started doing the things I used to really hate about him, which is where he just seems to lose the pace of the game. He takes the sting out of things, poor passing. He gets picked up on the ball a lot and gets the ball nicked off him in dangerous positions. He does not have the right mentality, cannot keep focus for long enough in a game for me. Not an elite player for me. I would sell him.
Okay. Conor Gallagher, next on the list. For me, I wasn't sure about this player, especially when we bought him in January. I didn't think he was what we needed, but performances towards the end of the season, he's definitely improved. Funny enough, what happens when you actually play players in the position they're supposed to play in, or certainly a position nearer to where their skill set lays. So for me, I think you keep Conor Gallagher. He's only been here for 6 months anyway. Melvin.
Yeah, keep. Improved a lot under De Zerbi. Excited to see what he does with him. Premier League proven. He's an athlete, a monster, and I think definitely keep.
Okay, Josh.
Pressing, work rate, clearly needed some decent coaching. Absolutely keep.
And Luke.
Keep, but it'd be interesting to see in 12 months' time, because his best position was the intensity and pressure he was putting on the opposition backline from the kind of 10 role, but I can't see him playing there under De Zerbi next season if we get a couple of other decent midfielders in. So keep, but I think he probably would only maybe have another year in the team unless he finds a different position. I do like him, but yeah, keep.
Okay. Right, next we come on to the Spaniard Pedro Porro. For me, I think he was sensational in that last game against Everton. Arguably the best player on the pitch. Some people would say he just doesn't keep it at levels needed, but for me, his crossing ability, his set pieces. I personally would keep Porro. What do you think, Melvin?
Keep. 26, entering his prime. De Zerbi will improve certain things from his game. I think his best attribute is he's always available, always plays. Definitely keep.
Okay, Josh?
Not many good right backs about. Definitely keep. He does my head in defensively at times, but under De Zerbi, I thought he was pretty faultless. So, yeah, definitely keep, and hopefully he kicks on and improves.
And Luke?
I think second only to Trent Alexander-Arnold for sort of assists over the last 5 years as a fullback. So really good stats, but I agree with Josh. I think his defensive side needs a lot of work, but he's young. He could still make some improvements there, and if he does, we'd have a hell of a player under De Zerbi. So definitely keep. And he's also really passionate. He's like quite intense as well, and I like that.
I have to agree with that. Yeah. Okay, another player that's right back essentially, although seems to have played left back and a lot of different places this season, is Jed Spence. I like Jed Spence. I just want to see him settled in one position, push to left back sometimes to cover Udogie. It's good to have players that can cover different positions. For me, I would give Jed another season. What do you think, Melvin?
Yeah, keep. Very easy keep. He's I think the only England chosen. He's the only player in the England squad from us, which definitely keep. I really like him. I think De Zerbi can get more out of him as well. He'll play right back hopefully this season, which is his natural position. He'll be better on his more dominant foot. Yeah, definitely keep.
Josh.
He's going to the World Cup. Look, questions about his attitude at times. I think his levels haven't been quite consistent, but nor has the position he's been played in. 30 matches. He started 23 of them in the Premier League, 2,056 minutes played, a foot mob rating of 6.63, which is actually not bad for a defender. 13 shots this season as well, with 62% of them on target. So when he has got forward, he's been generally fairly productive. He's got a non-penalty XG of 0.90, XG on target of 0.75, expected goals, expected assists 1.78. Sorry, I'm doing this. Chris is I knew it would wind you up, Craig.
Quick fire round.
Look, Jed Spence, keep him for now. I'm not entirely convinced. I think it's a robbery that he's even on the plane. He shouldn't be on the plane, in my opinion. But
Tuchel liked him though because of his pace, doesn't he?
He's quite quick, but his end product's, not really there. Of course, he can play on both sides, but for me, in an ideal scenario, he won't be the starting right back next season. So let's see how he copes with that. See what his mentality is really like if Porro is going to be first choice next season, which I would expect.
Absolutely. And Luke, Jed Spence.
Jedro Porro. I'd keep it. I'd keep him. I like him. I liked the thing that De Zerbi said about him knocking on his door and saying, if you want someone who's passionate, pick me, I'm going to do well. He's versatile, obviously, because he can play up the wing too. We mentioned it cynically before, but keeping a few English players in the team is useful for the various quotients we've got to meet. So, I'd keep him.
Yeah, that is a valid point, though. I know, many people think about it. We go out and buy all these foreigners, but you have to think about things like that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, next season, we're going to be back in Europe. So we will have that nice problem to have. This one, obviously, is injured at the moment. Wilson Odebear. I'm going to say keep because we can't sell him at the moment. What would I do with Odebear if he were fit? I think I would sell him, but we'd have to get something better. Melvin.
He's only 21. Same reason with Tell. I think he has potential. Obviously, we won't see him again for nearly a year. Unfortunate injury. I think he was one of the sharpest players we had at that moment when he got injured, and our problem just kept compiling. And I think he's a good player. Just needs to develop and mature into a serious player. But like I said, still 21, still very young potential. But I think we won't see him again for probably the majority of next season. I think it'll be probably February or March by the time he's fit. So we won't. I'll keep.
You keeping Josh?
Keep, not at the required level yet. Whether he can develop into that player that is going to be of the level we want, moving forwards, I don't know yet. But definitely some flashes of brilliance at times. Hopefully he recovers from his injury, and can build on what I actually thought was a fairly productive season at times for him. Certainly moments where he stepped up more than we'd seen him before. I still don't know whether he's a championship player or a Premier League player yet. But thankfully he's got age on his side. He's very young and he can grow and develop, hopefully. And of course, we've not seen what he's going to be like under De Zerbi as well. So fingers crossed next season, he has a good season. But similarly to Tell, give him one more year, see how he does, how he recovers from his injury, and then make a decision next summer.
Luke?
Yeah, I'd keep him. I mean, it's like, say, he's got to get over his injury and see where he is. I think he'll probably, but by the time he comes back, I imagine they'll give him a sort of grace period to say, show us what you can do. You're not going to be up to speed quickly. I always thought he's like, low centre of gravity, speedy, tricky winger. And those goals he got against, I think it was Twente or Alkmaar in the Europa League, I thought quite really reminds me of like a Aaron Lennon kind of regen. But Aaron Lennon's problem was always his end product as well. So, keep him. But he'll probably end up being reviewed at the end of the season once he's back playing again.
Okay. Antonin Kinski, for me, absolutely keep. Melvin?
Start. Make our number one goal kicker for me.
I agree. I totally agree. It's got to be. Josh?
Number one. Funny, this would not have been what people were saying last summer, that's for sure. Brilliant end to the season. For me, he's earned the right to be our number one keeper.
And, arguably, not arguably about it, played a big part in keeping us in the Premier League. Luke?
Yeah, keep Ski, for sure.
Okay. Ben Davies, Melvin. I don't know if it's been released by the club. I haven't seen it. Rumours he's getting a year extension. Ben Davies.
I think it doesn't cost much. I think they keep him for, his leadership. So keep.
I would as well. It's no surprise that every manager from Poch to Jose to Conte to Ange and now to Roberto De Zerbi loves Ben Davies. What are you saying on Ben Davies, Josh?
Yeah, I can envisage him being part of the coaching staff, in the future. I think he's going to retire at the club. He's definitely going to go on to be a manager. He's doing his coaching badges and everything. And apparently he's he's played quite a key role in developing certain players, in the youth team. There's a guy called Callum Ugwachukwu. Have you heard of him, Craig? What do you think?
Yeah, you pronounce his name better than I could, so I always fall over names. So yeah, I have heard of him. He's a good player. Good player. What's the matter with him? What's the matter?
I've just completely made him up. Chris said, "I've got a challenge for you. Name a random player that doesn't exist and see if Craig's heard of him."
I know his game. Is that all you got to say on the?
Ben Davies keep is fine. He's inoffensive.
What I would say he's important to the squad. I would say Ben Davies. Luke?
Yeah, keep. I mean, apparently he stayed the night at Hotspur Way the night before the Everton game, unlike somebody else. So his leadership qualities are very, very important going forward, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Who we got next? Mickey van der Ven. For me, keep all day long, Melvin.
Keep. Get him to sign a contract extension and keep.
Josh?
Yeah, 100%. He will be the captain next season, no doubt.
Do you think? Or do you think we won't be offered to somebody like a Maddison?
No, I think he's been the captain for the most part, hasn't he? When Romero's not been playing, he's been the captain. So there's no reason why. And even when Maddison was in the squad, Van der Ven again was captain. And I think for me, absolutely. Yeah, give him the armband. We might need to do that to get him to stay anyway. So he was very passionate, wasn't he? Even the good, the bad, the ugly, the times when we weren't very good and you could see him getting very upset. I think you could tell throughout that entire season just how much it meant to him. And he took every single game really personally. So, yeah, big fan.
He took a lot of stick as well, didn't he, actually, Mickey van der Ven? And he came through it. Luke, for you?
Yeah, can I choose cuff him to a goalpost? That's probably the best one. Make sure he doesn't go anywhere. Keep and do everything we can to get him to sign a new contract for sure.
I think he'd be keen to now. It sounds horrible today. Now we're staying in the Premier League, but look, people ain't going to stay if you're not in the Premier League. Big players, are they? Sad as it is, as much as we like them to. Okay, Melvin, Souza. What would you do with him? For me, it'd be a loan.
Yeah, it'd be if you find him alone in England, probably best, so you can keep an eye on him. But yeah, I think it's a weird one because he obviously cost money, which we could have put into other positions, but to buy such a gamble on Sousa. But I think the little bit we saw from him, you could see he has, a bit of ability. But again, De Zerbi, how much can he get out of him? How much can he train him and develop him? But yeah, I will say, between keep and loan, somewhere in the middle.
Josh.
Yeah, I think loan for me. With Robertson coming in, we've got 2 there. He's just not going to get minutes. Some glimpses where he clearly the lad's got potential, but we've not seen nearly enough from him yet. Again, so young. I'd love to see him, get some regular minutes playing English football. I don't think he's going to get Premier League football at this stage. So a good Championship loan, I think, might be the best fit for him.
And he also plays in the same position as Callum Ogachogwu as well. So, he's probably not going to get much looking, especially with him being mentored as well. Luke.
Yeah, I think loan probably. I do find it funny to think of like a Brazilian lad that comes over and then ends up going after, play Coventry. I find that quite funny. But yeah, definitely a loan for him, because I think with Robertson coming in, that would push him to 3rd choice at left back, which is, he's not going to get many minutes.
Yeah, he's just picking the right team for him, though, isn't it? I suppose. Okay, I'm going to touch on this player, even though he's not our player. But it's purely, would you re-sign him? I know you're a big fan of him, Melvin. Randall Kolo Muani.
No, I wouldn't. For me, I think we can find better. Even probably one of the most disappointing loan signings for the hype. For the money PSG paid for him. France International played for them in the World Cup. For me, it's a big no. I think Brendan Johnson was more effective. I think if we kept Brendan Johnson over him, we'd probably have more Premier League goals. So I wouldn't keep him now.
Sorry. If you're just new to the stream, goodbye, Muani. Coke answers absolutely. If you're new to the stream, Josh did mention a very good player that I honestly thought that I should know the name of. And I was thinking of Callum, because I knew we had a Callum, and I didn't quite hear what you'd said about the surname. I slightly cut out, and I thought, he must have, and I couldn't remember his surname, and he's Callum Olosesi or something, isn't it? I think the real name. And I thought, he said that. And because I do think Callum's a really good player. And then saw you laugh, and I thought, nah, he's wound me right up there. I'm going to make me look like a right idiot. So, because I heard the word Callum. Anyway, well done. Josh, where are we? What are we talking about? Randall Kolo Muani. You told us, Josh, that he was going to be a star player for Tottenham, and sadly it didn't work out.
I couldn't have been more wrong. I think I need more of whatever I was smoking, or less. Craig, is there a day that goes by where you don't talk about Kolo Muani?
There is now, because he's effectively not with us anymore, I think. But
look, in the famous words of Melvin in Bilbao, as far as Randall Kolo Muani is concerned, it's time to go home now.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Luke, dare I ask, Randall Kolo Muani, would you try and buy him or loan him again?
No chance. He was rubbish when he was trying his hardest, and then when he sort of gave up, he almost accidentally did better. So I wouldn't have him, not in a million years.
He scored some good goals in the Champions League. It was amazing how his fortunes fared. Okay, Melvin, third choice goalkeeper, Brandon Austin. Keeping him around. I think when we was in Europe, he was one of the only homegrown ones we had, so he was kind of made the squad by default. But what are you doing with Brandon Austin?
Yeah, keep, probably for what Josh said with the homegrown and club train numbers.
Josh?
Yeah, keep. Inoffensive, doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't get any minutes anyway. If he's happy to stay on the contract, the rare time that he has appeared on the pitch, he's actually looked all right. So, yeah, no issues there.
It's difficult being a third choice keeper, Luke. What would you do with Austin?
I'd keep him, but if he ends up becoming the second choice keeper going into the season, we've made a big mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's one that I just fear this player is never going to play in the Tottenham shirt. Luka Vuskovic. Melvin.
I don't know, because he wants to play with his brother Mario, so he really wants to play, I guess, in Hamburg. For me, he's only 18. He's still young. He's not going to start. I would send him back on loan, but make him sign a contract extension with absolutely no sell-on clause. Give him a pay rise. Give him what he wants. The guy is probably one of the hottest prospects in Europe for his age and for his stature and what he's doing in Germany. I think it's rare that you get so excited about a lone player like Luka Vuskovic. And I didn't really tune into any games. I only ever saw clips and just people from Germany speaking about him and really how much hype there was around him. And he won, correct me if I'm wrong, but he won Bundesliga Player of the Season or Young Player of the Season, something along those lines. And his debut was against Bayern, against Harry. So he's played against pretty good strikers, and he's probably scored one of the most ridiculous goals I've ever seen for a centre back. And he's still 19, like people from the comments are saying. It just defies, nature. The guy's an absolute freak for his age, 19 years old, and it'll be interesting to see what he does in the World Cup, because he's in the squad. I don't think he's going to start, but it'll be interesting to see if he gets minutes, if he's substituted on and there's a corner kick, to see if he scores. And if he does, remember I said that. But yeah, definitely make him sign an extension and loan him back out for another year.
You do forget how young he is. Personally, I'd definitely keep him. And if I was De Zerbi, I'd want to have a look at him pre-season and then make a decision. Josh, what do you think is going to happen with Vuskovic? What do you want to happen with Vuskovic?
I think, look, Vuskovic has clearly had an unbelievable season. Let's not forget his age. And just because he's had a good season at Hamburg does not automatically translate into he's going to be a standout star in the Premier League. At the first time of asking, I think probably at this stage, if we're bringing in Senesi and we're bringing in, potentially Van Hecker as well, who no doubt will go on to speak about, he's not going to get the minutes he needs. So I think I would rather see him go out on loan again. I'd like to see him again. If we go and do the Van Hecker deal, for example, why not send him to Brighton for a season, give him Premier League minutes? And then at that point that he's definitely tailor-made for the Premier League. And rather than having to spend 100 million on him from Brighton, you've got him for free. So that's what I'd probably do with him. And definitely have a look at him in pre-season. But I think he really ought to have a club kind of lined up. And I think that for me, not that these deals are ever done that cleverly, I would try and send him to Brighton on loan as part of sort of sweeten the Van Hecker deal.
Luke?
I think he's spoken quite openly about how desperate he is to play with his brother at Hamburg, who'll be back there next year. And if we have 4 solid centre-halves coming in with these supposed transfers, then I see no reason why he can't sort of fulfill that wish for him. And he could get better and better there. Josh was right; does probably need some Premier League experience. But if you get those 4 centre halves in that we think we might have, and maybe one of them moves on next year, and he can fill that place, and there's no harm in him going out on loan.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to deal with these because these are kind of very fringe players. So Melvin, Yang Min Hyuk, Manor Solomon, and Ashley Phillips for starters. What would you do with those 3?
Sell, and sell. All 3.
Josh?
Yang, sorry, you said Yang, Phillips.
Yang, Solomon, and Phillips.
Yeah, sell all three.
I have to agree. I do have to agree. Luke?
I would probably loan Yang and I would sell the other two.
Okay. And the final four, although we have got a few other mentions, if anybody ever wants to mention some of the youngsters as well, by all means do at the end. We got Alejo Veliz, essentially he's kind of gone anyway. Alfie Divine, Kota Takai, and Dane Scarlett. So Melvin, Veliz, Divine, Takai, Scarlett.
I think Veliz is already gone. I believe his
He's
loan with
essentially
an
gone.
option or obligation to sell.
I think he's gone anyway.
I think Alfie Divine
Josh?
never really
He's
lived
gone.
up to the hype.
Yep. Kota
Divine, I would
Takai.
sell. Takai, I would sell all of them. I think we need to stop, stagnating their careers by keeping them at the club. If they're going to develop, kind of like what we did with Troy Parrott, just sell him and move on. If they want to come back and they develop into something decent, and they really love the club, they'll find a way to come back as better players.
Kota
Josh?
Takai is the only one I would keep. It's not forget where we got him from. He's had no experience playing in Europe, and he's only just, he had a loan at Mönchengladbach. I would like to see him go on loan again. 21 is very young for a centre half. Let's see how he does with a full season under his belt. And again, it's about minutes and doing the right loan. So over to you, Johan Lang.
Yeah, got much faith in him. Luke?
Yeah, I would agree. I would loan Takai. I think it'd be a bit harsh to sell him when he's barely had a chance. He's also been injured most of the season in Germany as well. And then I would sell the others. And you're looking at sort of pure profit with Divine and Scarlett as well, which is always a good thing, and a shame that they didn't get a bit further, but they can kick on now and go and have good careers. And we can get pure profit for it as a club. So, yeah, it makes sense to sell.
You've also got players coming back, Mikey Moore, Will Lancashire, Jamie Donnelly, Demola Ajayi, a few others. I could go through the whole almost under 23 squad. Really, to be honest, anybody want to say anything about? Let's go for Lancashire, Donnelly, and Moore. Melvin, what are you doing with those three?
It's tricky because Mikey Moore had a really good loan, but I don't think he would be Premier League ready. I think he's still quite young. I would give him another season, see if he can win the league in Scotland. I would send him back on loan. Lancashire, I think same thing. Out of all, I think him and Dane Scarlett, I think Lancashire is slightly ahead of him in development-wise, and I can maybe see him breaking into the team eventually, but I think he needs another loan.
Great. Josh?
Lancashire, first team. I think he should be the third choice striker. Really impressed with the season he's had. He's had a lot of praise for what he did on loan at Oxford. Donnelly, again, a player I really wanted to work out for, but I'm not sure he's ready just yet. So probably another loan for him. Mikey Moore, had we gone down, he would have started week in, week out for us in the Championship. Thankfully, that's West Ham's problem, not ours. So, yeah, Rangers are desperate to keep him. Personally, I'd like to see Mikey Moore get some, opportunity in the Premier League and see if he can do it in the Premier League, because the Scottish League is just not the same. But yeah, I would look for another loan for Mikey Moore. Let's not forget how young he is too. But again, another decision for Johan, your favourite person at the club, Craig, who you mention every single day.
Love him. Absolutely love him. Yeah. Luke?
I think all of them should be on loan again until maybe next year, when we maybe have, hopefully, fingers crossed, have another European competition to compete in. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I think with Moore, I think he should decide. I think if he would like to be an understudy to Kudus, say on the right wing, then and he thinks he can, to get along with less minutes than maybe he's had this season, fine. But if he feels he wants to be starting every week, then you find a good loan for him. But I think he's at the position where his talent is such, and we definitely don't want to lose him. So it should be his choice.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Mikey Moore. Good season with Rangers. I'm sure they'd take him back. I'm sure they want to buy him. Seeing reports of them actually wanting to buy him. But I hope he comes back, and I hope he actually pushes for that left wing spot. Why not? Why not? He had a couple of really good games there before he went on loan to Rangers. Right, we've kind of done the whole squad. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about incomings. There's a list of names here we can go through. Robertson and Senesi, looks like those deals are going to be done, you would hope, unless there's any last-minute changes and gazumping by other clubs. Let's hope not. Actually stick with you, Luke. What do you make of the potential signings of Robertson and Senesi?
I think that it's something that we've not really done for quite a long time. I can't remember the last time we signed older, experienced players who you would assume Robertson would be second choice to a Doggy. So I like it. I think he's also got the right mentality as well, because he's been a winner. He's won a lot of things. We do have a young squad, and we have a tendency to lose our heads a little bit. There's some games we've gone in at half time, a goal down, and not been the sort of team you want to see coming out in the second half when they're losing. And players like him in the dressing room as well, I think it's going to be really good to sort of stabilise the mentality. And then Senesi as well is makes perfect sense. Really good ball playing centre half. Not particularly quick, but we've got that in some of our other players. So complements them in some way, and a good replacement for potential outgoing of Romero as well. So sensible purchases, and they're both free, which is what what we seem to like at Spurs.
Yeah, Johan loves that. Two players that have been heavily linked, Savinho and Jan Paul Van Hecker. Josh, what are your thoughts on these, and can you tell us a bit more about them, these deals?
Yeah, so Van Hecker, it's been reported that we made a bid for Van Hecker, fell a bit short, but have gone in with a second bid. Van Hecker's a player that obviously De Zerbi knows. Slight vibes of Toby and Jan, I seem to feel with going for a player like Van Hecker. Of course, you mentioned earlier, progresses the ball. I think it was Luke that mentioned actually progresses the ball really well. Having two centre-backs who can play together for club and country, I think that's quite a good thing to have. Will they be as good as Jan and Toby? Who knows? I think that's a pretty high bar to set. But after the World Cup, I think Van Dijk will probably not be the starting centre-back for the Netherlands. Moving forwards, Van der Ven, who played at left-back just last night, I think he'll then move into centre-back. So it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Seen a few comments saying, worried about Senesi going to Liverpool, worried about that. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we're trying to get 4 competent centre-backs in. I think that says more about Romero's future than it does anything else. So Van Hecker, I think, is a good addition. I must say, every time I watch him, I think he's good, but I don't think he's amazing. So that is going to be a lot of money spent on a player who, I think it remains to be seen how much he genuinely improves our starting lineup. And then, who was the other player you mentioned? Sorry, I've been distracted.
Jan Paul Van Hecker and Savinho.
Oh, Savinho. Okay. So, yes, Savinho, it's going to go one of two ways, right? It's going to either be an absolute hit, or it's going to be as stinking as any of the others that we've signed in recent years. He is a City reject, unfortunately. It's not worked out for him. He went with high hopes. I think there's a good player in there. But there is a reason why City then went on to buy Marmoush and Semenyo as well, because clearly Guardiola didn't see enough in Savinho when they were there together. So, look, do I think that's automatically a negative? No, I think actually he's got a great opportunity to prove himself now and to make this work. I do think there's a lot about him that I like. I like the fact that he can play off the left and the right. He's very good at crossing the ball. So I think he'll be a welcome addition. Xavi Simons has been sort of preempting that signing, I think, on social media. He posted a photo of them together when they were at PSV. So that's always quite nice. You've got a link there already. And clearly seems interested in the move. So it depends what the fee is going to be for him. But we definitely need a winger. And I think, there are worse places to sign a player from than Manchester City. So I think both of them will be good additions. Whether, Savinho turns out to be, the first choice winger in 2 years' time, who knows? But I think for where we're at now and where we want to build, I think both would be very, very good acquisitions for the club.
Okay, Melvin, 3 players kind of have been mentioned. You mentioned one of these, Hayden Hackney, Adam Walton and Harry Wilson. Can you see any of these happening? And I suppose the question, can you see any of these happening? Can you see Spurs paying money for these players? Obviously, Walton would cost a fair penny, you'd think.
Yeah, well, the 2 signings Josh mentioned, I think will cost nearly 100 million. So you have to think, how much money do we have to spend realistically? Obviously, there'll be outgoings. You think Romero will bring, close to 56 million, and that will be put back into the squad. There's money to be made with the players' outgoings. With those 2 players that you mentioned, Hackney, I don't think will cost a lot of money. I think we might need to go more, the Premier League proven direction. I think Harry Wilson might be on a free. Is that correct? As well, I think, is he a free agent?
I don't actually know. Possibly. Josh,
I think he's a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a less risky signing, but he's probably not, a flashy winger, but he's Premier League proven, been decent for Fulham. So I don't know about him. Obviously, the biggest name there is Wharton, and if they really want him and they really go in with, he's probably going to be the one that costs the most. You'll have to probably pay, English, probably near 100 million mark, kind of like what Arsenal did when they bought Declan Rice. They went in with a big sum of money and got the player. If we had ambition, we would go in and buy him. I just don't see us spending that kind of money. That would be, 3 players, 200 million in one window. I just don't see us doing that unless, we really, really sell a number of players. I would love it to happen, to be honest with you, but I just don't see it.
No, I sadly agree. But we need players in, don't we? We need players in. Luke, Carlos Baleba and Moise Keane. Either of those? What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't see Believer happening because I think Brighton have whacked 100 billion plus on it, and unless we're being extremely ambitious, which some people think we will be, I can't see it happening. I wonder if sort of Believer is in a category with Wharton and maybe a couple of other players, and I think he's probably the most expensive. Would he be good? Yeah, it'd be excellent because he played not too much, but he did play under De Zerbi. He was the Caicedo replacement, wasn't he? And he's had, I think, the last couple of seasons, he's not been starting every game, I don't think. I think Hertzler's sort of actually rotated him a bit in and out of the squad. So, but he is strong and powerful. He's got a good pass on him. I would actually prefer to see someone like Adam Wharton, but so I think I would say Believer's probably pretty unlikely. I think Man United will probably go for him if they don't get Anderson, if he ends up going to City as well. So there'll be a bit of a knock-on effect there. And who was the other one? Sorry, it was
Moise Keane.
Yeah, I
didn't like him. I didn't rate him when he was at
Everton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel a bit like, why? Like, what has he got that? Does he do a specific thing De Zerbi would want him to do? If he does, fair enough. But I just feel a bit like, if you've come to the Premier League and you flopped, I think don't touch that with a barge pole unless it's very, very cheap and you're going to fill in a squad position. For me, we clearly need an exciting, pacey, good finisher. Keane's been playing for what, Fiorentina? Is he still there? I mean, they were flirting with relegation earlier in the season as well. I just think that would be a disastrous buy. But from the things I've read, it's De Zerbi that wants him.
I mean, he has scored 27 goals in 58 appearances for Fiorentina. He's been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, but it's also Serie A, and he's had his time in the Premier League, and he played for Everton, and he was horrendous for them.
I mean, he was also very, very young. I'm not saying like chiming in to say that Keane is the answer, but I've watched an awful lot of it, and
I think that he also played. He was unfortunate because wasn't he there, and it was Ancelotti as well, wasn't it, when he was there, and it was Ancelotti didn't really want to stay, obviously, and he left to go and take over Real Madrid. So he didn't have the best time. But I just think if you're looking at number 9 options, I just don't understand why he would be the one that's floating to the top at the moment. But not. But
I kind of agree.
Comparable, by the way, he's comparable to the likes of Matisse Tell and Odebear and these sorts of attacking players that we signed when he was at Everton. He was there for I think from 2019 to 2023, and he only made 32 appearances in total for Everton over a 3-4 year period. So as a very, very young player. So it is possible for players to develop and grow. I mean, he's very quick. He is a good striker. And if De Zerbi, wants him, there's probably a good reason.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? It's, if De Zerbi wants them, you kind of got to put your faith in it. But yeah, it wouldn't have been my first choice, I have to say. The last two I've got written down here, Josh, I'll leave to you. Bart Verbruggen and Morgan Gibbs-White, again, has been touted around. Either of those, what's your thoughts?
Gibbs-White would be unbelievable. I don't think we can, as Spurs fans, I don't think any of us want to go through the trauma of that again. I did a video for the channel when it looked like we were signing Eze and Gibbs-White within the space of 2 days, and both collapsed and didn't happen and ended up with egg on my face. So I don't really want to entertain that one. And if it happens, brilliant, but I won't believe it will happen until it happens. Bart Verbruggen, again, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you end up in a situation where you get Van Hecker and you've got Van der Ven and you have a sort of Dutch spine to your team. I must say, I've never really been impressed with Bart Verbruggen. I've never been that impressed with him when I've watched him. I think he's got quite a few mistakes in him. I don't think he has shown anything to me that would justify him being in there over someone like Antonin Kinski based on the last 7 games that we've seen. Again, realistically, we're not going to buy the entire Brighton team either. Belieber's another player that's been mentioned. We're not going to go and buy 4 or 5 players from Brighton. Minter is a player that I rate. I think Danny Welbeck could do a job. Someone mentioned in the comments he probably could do a job. But, that's not going to happen. I think with a lot of these players, we have to be realistic about where we actually are. The number of names I'm hearing branded about, a good season for us, I think we'd be wrong to say that we want to get back into the Champions League next season. And I'm not saying that is we shouldn't have ambition, but we've got to be realistic about where we actually are. We've had 2 17th place finishes in a row. A good season would actually be finishing in the top half, and a good season, an amazing season, would be getting into Europe in any form. Like, we cannot expect, as much as, we all expect a top half finish probably next season. We cannot expect that we're going to be in the Champions League race and that we're going to attract players, like Krupi. Krupi's one that I would love. I'd love us to spend, 80 million on him. Ryan's another one from Bournemouth that I would take and spend crazy money on. But you're going up against the likes of, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Man United for these players who have Champions League football. We're simply not going to beat those teams to those players. I don't want a summer where we have all of that hope built up like we did for Eze and Gibbs-White, which is why I say this, only for us to be let down again because another club comes in and they pick that other club over us. So I'd rather us, look to strengthen smartly. Like it, with some of the players that have been mentioned, it looks like that is exactly what we do. This is going to take a few transfer windows. De Zerbi even said that. It's going to take a few transfer windows to get ourselves into a position where we can actually go out and get those players. And it's not just a case of pay the wages and sell the project and they'll come, because we have become an absolute laughing stock. Whether we like it or not, we are no longer the club we like to think we are. We have been an absolute laughing stock. And our Europa League victory, which we're all incredibly proud of, has been quite short-lived because Aston Villa went and did it the very next season. So, I think we need to trust De Zerbi in the players that he wants to get over the line and in the players that we do get over the line, because he's a manager, not a head coach. It's a big change for Spurs. And I think if we get behind De Zerbi and back him, I'm sure he knows what to do. It's just one of those. There's so many players that we could talk about, but quite frankly, we all need to dream on.
If we're going to trust him, one of the ones that you mentioned before that I think he would go for and trusting him would be Bart Verbruggen. I mean, Verbruggen was actually, in terms of goalkeeper ratings, was third in the league behind Sells and Donnarumma for save percentage throughout last season, and I think he was sort of joint. Well, he was sixth in clean sheets, but with 3 above him, having 1 more than him. So I think he's someone that if we were to go for, I think De Zerbi again would like him because of the time he's worked with him, but also because of his ability to play the ball out from the back. And it'd be interesting to see what he does with him and Kinski, because he rotated with Sanchez and Steele in his first season at Brighton, and then he rotated between Steele and Verbruggen ended up getting more game time in the end. But it'd be quite interesting to see Verbruggen and Kinski next season if they get rotated as well. Because he likes to do it, because he wants both of his goalkeepers to have constant experience of that pressure of the way he likes to play. So I think he would be quite a good signing. The problem with him is I think Brighton would want a lot of money for him. And I think Spurs would want him to be a number 1 and play a bit more than Kinski if we were going to shell out for him. So, yeah, there's that side of it as well.
Can I just say as well, like, in terms of managing expectations, do I want Spurs to go and sign all these top players? Of course I do. Should we be signing these players? Of course. But are we seriously sit here and expect the club who have let us down, the board who have let us down year after year after year after year, to finally get this right and buy all these players and expect these players to join? It's just, I think it's going to take a little bit of time before we get into that position where De Zerbi and the team has done well enough to then get those players that we should be getting. And it's like the old Poch comment, isn't it? The house without the furniture. We had an amazing squad. We never built on it. We lost Harry Kane because we didn't build the squad. And we need to start doing that. And that starts now and this summer. But are Spurs really going to get... the thing I should also say is I would like to see us going and putting bids in for Krupi and putting bids in for these players. But that doesn't mean they're going to join. We should absolutely be in the market for these players and shopping with the big boys, and but we just shouldn't expect that to mean that they're going to come to the club.
Yeah, and that's the worry, isn't it? And you're right, Josh. That's what's got to change this year. They've kind of let the fans down and the squad down and various other big players down, and it simply has to be different this summer. It simply has to be, because as we said on podcasts, I've said it, a lot of people have said it, it was a warning shot across the bows the previous season, even though we was never really in danger of going down. And last year, if that wasn't a warning, I don't know what was. We was this close to getting relegated, and it would have been absolutely disastrous. They simply have to do things differently and go for these big players, as you say, Josh. Well, that's the end of the show, ladies and gents. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm glad everybody got involved, writing down what you would do with certain players, whether you want to keep, loan, sell. Really good to see your comments. Thanks to all 3 of you for coming on for what was a longer show than intended, but there's so many players to get through. You don't really realise how big the Tottenham squad is until you actually sit down and go through it. So thanks for that. Melvin, as I say, thanks for coming back on. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter. I had to make a new one because my old one got hacked, and I've been following slowly a lot of people trying to build it back up. If you do me a favor and follow me, I usually follow back. Any Tottenham fan, I usually follow back. My name is Mel_Tottenham, and I only use Twitter for obviously sports. And if you want to follow our Malta Spurs Instagram, it's also written there.
Thanks, Melvin. Luke, where can people find you? And thanks for coming back on the show as always.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm at hotspur.stats on Instagram and on X. Cheers.
Thanks, mate. And finally, Josh, thanks for coming back on. It's been a while, hasn't it, since you was last on? Good to have you back on. Where can people find you on social media?
At Josh UCV. We've done so many transfer windows, haven't we? The number of players that we've gone through. I think there was one time, didn't I go on for about 45 minutes talking about every single player we've been linked with?
I think so.
It's going to be much the same this summer. Look, let's just hope the club bloody do something different. I think we as fans deserve it. And if not, I expect to see everyone out there with the Levy out, and well, I say Levy out banners, not anymore the Enoch out banners now. The first home game of the season.
And Langer, what's your views on Langer, Josh?
I was going to ask you actually, Craig. Do you think about Kolo Muani or Johan Langer more?
Oh, there's not much in it. Probably Johan Lang, to be honest with you.
Him and I can both.
I'm just not convinced. Not convinced. Out of the two, if you're going to have to keep one, I think you keep Vinay. But I just haven't seen personally enough from Johan Langer, and that transfer window rap video hasn't aged well, has it? Didn't want to panic buy.
As you, Craig, as well, Johan Langer.
He what? Sorry.
I said Johan Langer always looks as miserable as you.
Not surprised. He's at Tottenham. He actually works there. Try supporting him. Anyway, the Johan Langer conversation will probably be for another day and another podcast. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Podcast is available on all audio platforms as well. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back with another one very soon. And as always, come on, you Spurs.